Hey, Frog fans, welcome into this episode of Frogs Insider. Jamie Plunkett here. No Melissa Treebwasser on the show tonight, just me flying solo. Melissa is doing an excellent job of covering the Dallas Wings as their season gets underway after drafting Paige Becker's #1 overall. You can go check out all of her work over at her Twitter account. She's doing an incredible job of covering the Dallas Wings already this season. Excited for her to kind of launch that new endeavor. So just me on the show tonight here, Frogs Insider, presented by the Flying T Club. We are breaking down the recent announcement of the Block T Association's 58th Hall of Fame class at TCU. It includes a couple really big names: Gary Patterson, Jason Verrett, Matt Carpenter, and about 6 other names as well getting inducted into the TCU Hall of Fame this year. What does it mean that Gary Patterson is now a Horned Frog Hall of Famer? We're going to get into all of that. But first, a quick note about our presenting sponsor, the Flying T Club. They are TCU's NIL collective. You can participate in their work by going to flyingtclub.com and learning more about their organization. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Flying T Club later in the show as well. Also, of note, we are a part of the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Republic of Football Network. You can find that podcast feed by going wherever you get your podcasts and searching for the Republic of Football Network. That includes a show for every D1 football program in the state of Texas, including ours. We've got a lot of extra content over there as well. Very excited to continue that partnership with DCTF. Also, if you want just Frogs Insider, you can go wherever you get your podcasts, search Frogs Insider, and our feed with just our show will pop up. And you can go to the YouTube channel where you'd be seeing me read this to you right now over at the Frogs Insider YouTube channel as well. All right. Gary Patterson is the newest member of the Block T Hall of Fame, along with 8 other Horned Frogs. We're going to break down everybody who entered the TCU Hall of Fame on this episode. We're going to talk about each one of them individually, talk about their accolades while they were Horned Frogs. Incredible list, first of all. And this is a really fun group of TCU student athletes and a couple coaches as well, obviously, with Gary Patterson being one of them. We're going to talk about Gary later in the show, but let's start with Julian Brunn from men's golf. Julian Brunn is one of the most decorated student athletes in TCU history. It's interesting because you think about most decorated athletes, you think about a football player or a baseball player. These days, a women's basketball player. But Julian Brunn from men's golf is one of the most decorated. He is the only men's golfer to be named a first-team All-American 3 times in his career. He got it in 2012, 2013, and 2014. He set school records as a freshman for victories in a season and a career with 3, as well as for stroke average. He would go on to match or better those marks the very next year as a sophomore. And he rounded out his career with a school record 9 individual titles, including the 2014 Big 12 championship. He was the 3rd Horned Frog to earn reserve medalist honors at an NCAA championship, tying for 2nd place in the 2012 championship at Riviera Country Club. That is a hard golf course. And Julian Brunn reached 2nd place there in the NCAA championship in 2012. Next up, Whitney Bright, then Whitney Gibson from track and field, 2-time NCAA champion. She set and still holds the school record in both the indoor and outdoor long jump events. So that's a record that she's held for quite some time. She tallied the indoor jump record of 22 feet 8 inches in March of 2012 to win the indoor championship. And then she went on later to record an outdoor mark of 22 feet 10.5 inches in July of 2012 to capture the outdoor championship. Won the indoor and the outdoor long jump championship in the same year, set a program record in both in the process. Her indoor mark at the time actually tied the NCAA record. Pretty great accomplishment for Whitney. She became TCU's first ever female track and field athlete to win an indoor and outdoor national championship in the same event. And overall, she earned 6 All-American honors as a long jumper, 3 indoor and 3 outdoor. She also earned an All-American nod as a member of the 2012 4x1 relay team, which I don't know if you've been paying attention, but the 4x1 relay team for TCU is on the map again this year because of India Mayberry and what she was able to do at the outdoor track national championships this year. They set like the 2nd fastest time in the world for the 4x100 relay this season. So this year's team continuing on the great tradition that Whitney Bright helped found. Another one, Glenn Norris. This was kind of a throwback. Another track and field athlete, Glenn Norris, from the mid 70s. He was a two-time All-American at TCU. He won he was the first leg of the 4x400 relay for the 1975 and 1976 Horned Frog teams. His relay team in 1975 was the first TCU relay team to win a Southwest Conference championship. And that squad went to finish fourth at the NCAA championships as well. He was a conference finalist in the 100-yard dash in 1975, and he also was a finalist in the indoor 60-yard dash that same season. That event, I don't believe, is around anymore. But shout out to Glenn Norris for his honor of joining the Block T Association Hall of Fame. Another track and field, 3 in this one. Charles Silman. Charles Silman actually was one of 3 members of this class to get to a baseball game at Baylor a couple weeks ago and throw out one of the first pitches. Silman was a 2013 NCAA national champion. He won the 100-meter event with a 9.89 time. Incredible honor to win a national championship in the 100-meter race. He's a 5-time All-American. He earned honors twice in the 60-meter to go along with 3 outdoor honors. He was the 2012 Mountain West Conference and 2013 Big 12 Conference indoor champion in the 60 meters. Look at that. He transitioned seamlessly. I guess it just helps when the objective is to run fast. It doesn't matter what conference you're in. If you're running that fast, you can beat anybody in any conference. He was 2012 Mountain West indoor champion in the 200 meters. He was a 4-time conference champion in the outdoor 100 meters. He won the event 3 straight years in the Mountain West from 2010 to 2012, and he won it in the Big 12 in 2013. He was also a 2-time outdoor champion in the 200 meters, in the Mountain West Conference in 2011, and in the Big 12 in 2012, because the track and field season kind of overlaps. The indoor happens in the fall, indoor happens in the spring, outdoor happens in the fall. Is that how it goes? Either way, won a lot of titles across both the Mountain West and the Big 12. Charles Silman did, and now he is a TCU Hall of Famer as well. Pretty cool stuff to see the track and field folks get their recognition, even if it does come quite a few years later for a guy like Glenn Norris. But it is really nice to continue to honor non-revenue student athletes who have accomplished a tremendous amount at TCU. I know that Melissa was talking about that on social media earlier this weekend as TCU Beach Volleyball won their national championship. She was posting about the last few national championships that had been won at TCU, and it was rifle, it was men's tennis, now it's beach volleyball. In an era where we talk so much about revenue sports and revenue in general in college athletics, it is cool to see 3 track and field athletes get their flowers for their accomplishments at TCU. Not to mention, obviously, a men's golfer, Julian Brunn, getting his flowers as well in this Hall of Fame class. Another non-revenue sport coming right up as our next honoree in this class is Richard Sebesma, longtime coach of swimming and diving at TCU. He's the longest tenured head coach for any sport at TCU when he retired in 2017. So I think that stands still. I don't believe Bill Monagle broke that record, but 38 years Richard was at the helm of the swimming and diving program for TCU. He got to TCU in 1979. He guided the Horned Frogs through 5 different conferences, right? The Southwest Conference, you had the WAC, you had the Conference USA, you had the Mountain West, and the Big 12. And TCU won 7 team conference championships and 16 individual league titles during his tenure. He produced 7 national champions, 18 All-Americans, and 4 Olympians in that time span as well. And he's a 5-time Conference Coach of the Year. It is very rare in any industry now for someone to hold down the same job or a place at the same company for a long period of time. For him to be able to do that for 38 years at TCU is truly astounding and really, really cool. Very excited that he's also getting his flowers. This is another one of those folks that was at the Baylor game throwing out a first pitch. It was cool to see him out there, still kicking it, still moving around. And just what a legend, what an absolute legend for all he accomplished accomplished at TCU in those 38 years. A couple more names. These ones are getting a little bit more familiar, maybe to more recent Horned Frog fans. First one, Matt Carpenter. TCU baseball's own Carpenter played as TCU's third baseman primarily from 2005 to 2009. That's the same 4 years that I was at TCU. It was a blast to go watch him play. 3-time second-team All-Mountain West Conference selection in 06, 08, and 09. And he left as TCU's all-time leader in games played with 241 and at-bats with 843. He's now third in games played and fourth in at-bats, as a couple folks have passed him by. I believe Luke Boyers is one of those. Braden Taylor is up there as well. But it's still cool to see Matt Carpenter, that Iron Man status at TCU, I don't think is going away anytime soon. Obviously, he was a 3-time All-Star for the St. Louis Cardinals as well. He led the MLB in hits, runs scored, and doubles in 2013 and finished fourth in MVP voting that year, and really just decided to hang it up this past season. Still open, I think, to signing with the team at some point, but has seen a really long and fruitful MLB career over the last decade plus for Matt Carpenter. So he is another guy coming into the Hall of Fame for TCU. Interestingly enough, and this is something that I think TCU fans do quite frequently, a lot of people think that he was on the first College World Series team for TCU, but he actually wasn't, because he graduated in 09. And so he was 1 year early. He was part of that team that lost to Texas in the Super Regionals in 2009. And then the returning group from that unit, that team, is the group that eventually broke through in 2010. But Matt Carpenter, now a TCU Hall of Famer, entrenched with recent inductees from the baseball team, including Brian Holiday and Jake Arrieta, a couple other guys as well. And he's got a classmate, a baseball buddy in this Hall of Fame class as well, because Preston Morrison is another name on this list. PMO, 4-time All-American, freshman All-American in 2012, third-team All-American in 13, first-team All-American in 14, and second-team All-American in 2015. He's the only TCU pitcher, Preston Morrison is, to throw 400-plus innings in a career, and he ranks number 1 all-time in program history with 61 career games started. That's a record that I don't know we see get broken. Just with the transfer portal, with the draft the way it is structured now, I think we'd be hard-pressed to see someone touch Preston Morrison's innings and starts numbers again, not just at TCU, but anywhere really, for what he's done. Just so impressive. He has 37 career victories at TCU. That's second only to Frank Johnstone's total of 38, which he set from 1971 to 1974. And Morrison is also second all-time in TCU history with 322 strikeouts. He was a 4-time All-Conference selection in the Mountain West and in the Big 12. He was Pitcher of the Year in both leagues as well, Mountain West in 2012 and the Big 12 in 2014. I think, so we've been talking a lot about Tommy Lepore this season. He had 6 consecutive quality starts until that streak was broken this weekend against Arizona, where he only went 5 innings. But I had been doing a lot of digging about who was next, right? So he matched Nick Lodolo's streak of 6 consecutive quality starts from 2019. The longest streak is Preston Morrison with 13 consecutive quality starts that went his last 11 starts in 2014, including that run to the College World Series, and his first 2 starts in 2015. That's a record that I'm not sure, you talk about innings pitched and games started. I'm not sure anyone's going to match the 13 quality start streak of Preston Morrison either. A couple more names on this list. We're going to get to those in just a moment, but first we're going to take a quick break and hear about the Flying T Club. Hey Frog fans, Jamie Plunkett here, one of the hosts of Frogs Insider, and I wanted to take a second and talk to you about our presenting sponsor, the Flying T Club. The Flying T Club is an incredible organization. It's TCU's NIL collective, the only NIL collective for TCU, and they support over 130 student athletes wearing purple, loud and proud. They partner these student athletes with organizations in and around the city of Fort Worth, giving back to the Fort Worth community, making our community stronger and better. If you want to learn more about how you can support the Flying T Club's efforts and by proxy support TCU student athletes, all you've got to do is go to flyingtclub.com. That's flyingtclub.com, and check out the different ways that you can get involved with that organization. I've known the folks over at the FTC for a really long time, and they're incredible people. They're dedicated Horned Frogs. They bleed purple through and through, and they want to get to know you and see how you can partner with them to make the best of TCU student athletes' lives while they're on campus and in Fort Worth. The work they do stretches well beyond TCU's campus as well, partnering with multiple nonprofit organizations. If you have any opportunity to give, I would encourage you to do so over at flyingtclub.com. We are back talking about TCU's Hall of Fame class. We've talked about the first 7 names on the list. The last 2 are pretty big ones, if I do say so myself. Not that Preston Morrison and Matt Carpenter and Julian Brunn and all the others aren't big ones either. But if you're a football fan, you're going to really enjoy these last 2 names that have made the Block T Association Hall of Fame class of 2025. Let's start with another guy who TCU fans know and love. That's Jason Verrett. 2-time All-American for the Horned Frogs in 2012 and 2013. 3-time All-Conference selection from 2011 to 2013. Big 12 Conference's Co-Defensive Player of the Year in 2013, where in that season he had 39 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss and a sack. He also led the team and the Big 12 with 14 pass breakups that season. He was this is the thing that I will always remember about Jason Verrett. He was so good, people just stopped throwing the ball at him, and he still managed to have 14 pass breakups that season. People just would not throw his direction, and when they did, it was like he broke up the pass. It was crazy. He was first-round draft selection in the 2014 NFL draft, going 25th overall to the San Diego Chargers. Highest TCU defensive player selected in the draft since Bob Lilly was taken 13th overall in 1961. I know that Jason did not have the career that he wanted in the NFL due to injuries, because we saw the spark when he was healthy in the league and what he was capable of. We saw the comeback story in San Francisco the one year he managed to stay healthy and didn't win comeback player of the year because of a guy named Alex Smith, who was also incredibly deserving of the award. But Jason Verrett, I think, is one of those standouts from that 2013 2012 era of TCU football when they were transitioning into the Big 12. But it's always interesting to me to remember that Verrett was a JUCO transfer, and that Jason Verrett had a really bad first game as a Horned Frog, right? He got torched so bad against Baylor that he thought about quitting football altogether. Pretty great that he didn't do that, because he went on to have a fantastic career at TCU and have a sustained career in the NFL. But it's just a reminder, I think, of where these guys start, where these student athletes start, isn't always where they finish. And so I think we've seen a lot of criticism for TCU student athletes over the year. A lot of that is warranted, right? Because guys don't meet standards or people don't develop and all this other stuff. But I think it's really interesting, especially when you compare this to TCU's baseball team this year with a lot of freshmen, talking about where they are and the mistakes that they make, or, how we evaluate these kids. They're unfinished products. And I think Jason Verrett is one of the ultimate unfinished products when you look at that first game that he had in a TCU uniform compared to where he ended up. And I think with all of these folks on this list, it's a testament to their work ethic. It's a testament to their willingness to be coached. It's a testament to the coaching staff for developing the incredible talent that they all were. And it's a testament to patience, because players develop over the course of time, and nobody comes into TCU a finished product. So congratulations to Jason Verrett, the other 8 folks who made the Hall of Fame. But let's jump into kind of the main reason I wanted to talk about this tonight, and that is the last name on this list. That is Gary Patterson. It's an interesting induction for a couple of different reasons, not the least of which is timing. We're going to get into all of that, but first, let's just talk about Gary Patterson as a TCU Horned Frog. He spent 24 years as a TCU coach, whether that was defensive coordinator or a head coach. He was the DC from 1998 to 2000, and then he was the head coach from 2000 to 2021. He set the TCU all-time coaching record with 181 wins. That's 72 more than Nudge Meyer, who was second on the list. Patterson won a total of 22 National Coach of the Year awards, posted 10 seasons with 11 wins or more. He guided the Horned Frogs to 6 conference championships. He mentored 263 all conference selections, 21 first team All Americans, and 55 NFL draft picks. So just those numbers, right? Just on the surface. Obviously, obviously, it's like the biggest no brainer of all time for Gary to be in the Hall of Fame. It is. I mean, and those numbers don't even do justice, I think, to the impact that he had, because you start to talk about legacy, and it's more than just putting guys in the NFL. It's more than just winning football games. It's the fact that he did it at TCU, and he started it at a time where TCU was wandering in the desert. And this is a conversation that TCU fans have tried to communicate to the outside world for so long now, and that is that Gary Patterson doing all of this and being successful like this way wasn't necessarily the part that was outlandish and crazy. The part that was outlandish and crazy is the fact that he did it at TCU and chose to continue doing it at TCU, despite the fact that he had job offers from Tennessee and from Arkansas, that Notre Dame came calling, that Kentucky wanted him, that he had conversations with Kansas State and with LSU and with all these other schools, and he stayed willingly time and time again at TCU. I don't know. I do know. TCU football isn't where it is without Gary Patterson. It isn't where it is if Gary Patterson's only at TCU for 5 years or 10 years even. I don't think TCU football is where it is today. I don't think it's in the Big 12, without Gary Patterson doing what he did for as long as he did at TCU. But it's interesting to me now that he is a Hall of Famer. He deserves to be a Hall of Famer. And I was always curious to know what the timing would be on Gary getting inducted into the well, I keep saying flying T, the Block T Association Hall of Fame, because he already has a statue outside the stadium, right? I think that was the biggest signal that this was an inevitable reality at some point in time. But B, I think it's interesting because of what's gone down the last couple of years, right? Like, obviously, things didn't end the way fans wanted it to end with Gary. But maybe this means that the relationship is starting to repair a little bit between TCU and Gary Patterson. Victor Bushini is retiring soon, in like the next month. He will be the Chancellor Emeritus at TCU. He was obviously a big role in keeping Gary in Fort Worth. Jeremiah Donati, who extended Gary and then was one of the officials that had to have hard conversations with Gary in 2021, is no longer at the university, right? He's at South Carolina now. Mike Buddy is the AD. And the way that things ended in 2021, with the option of Gary staying until the end of the season and having this kind of, victory lap and just everybody celebrating all that he's accomplished, and him choosing to walk away in the middle of the season after that really, really abysmal Kansas State game right before Halloween in 2021. It just wasn't the way anybody wanted it to end. I know it's not how Gary wanted things to end. I know it's not how the administration wanted it to end. And I definitely know it's not how fans wanted it to end. So the fact that we're here now in May of 2025 talking about Gary being a Block T Association Hall of Famer is an indicator, to me at least, that maybe the relationship is starting to be put back together again. And I really am happy that that is the case. It's interesting too that he spent the last few years doing what he did, right? Going to Texas, being on staff there for a year, being an advisor to Dave Aranda for 6 months, going and being the guest speaker at an SMU football event earlier this spring, and that's frustrated some folks. I've been outspoken about it on this very show about how odd it was that he was doing all of that and then still showing up for basketball games and football games and doing stuff at TCU. But the reality is, and I think this is a realization that a lot of us need to come to, is that he has maintained a deep and strong relationship with the city of Fort Worth, even after he was no longer the head coach at TCU, right? We're talking about him leaving TCU just a little over a year after his nonprofit organization got off the ground, the one that he started with Leon Bridges called The Big Good. And that, I mean, he comes back, he does multiple events every year with that organization, big galas. They've raised over $3 million for community partners in Fort Worth, including the Tarrant Area Food Bank and the United Community Centers. He does incredible work in the city. He's got deep relationships and partnerships in and around the city. And at the end of the day, he does still show up for TCU, right? He shows up for football games. He's sitting courtside while TCU's hitting a game-winning shot in Schollmeyer Arena, and he's cheering with fans courtside. He clearly and, rightfully still has a deep love for everything TCU. And I think the majority of TCU's fan base still has a real deep love for everything Gary Patterson. Even if those last few years didn't go down how everybody wanted them to, and the ending definitely didn't go down how anybody wanted it to. But at the end of the day, this was the right move. This was a good thing for TCU. It was a good thing for Gary Patterson, and I'm really glad that it happened. And I hope you are too, because we are in the next era of TCU football. But the Gary Patterson era should always be one that is looked at fondly and gratefully by Horned Frog fans for all that he did and contributed to the university. And that's where we're going to end this episode of Frogs Insider. Let me know what your thoughts are on this Hall of Fame class. I think it's loaded top to bottom. Obviously, it's got the headline names like Gary Patterson and Matt Carpenter and Jason Verrett, but all 9 of these folks contributed so much to TCU athletics in their own way, contributed to their own programs, were incredibly successful on the field, and a lot of them, pretty much all of them, are incredibly successful off the field as well. Let me know what you think about this Hall of Fame class. Let me know if you think it was the right thing to get Gary into the Hall of Fame right now. And until next time, we'll talk to you then. Go Frogs.